We're human, don't you know? And in this leadership series, we are delving into the seemingly why did I put that word in there? That's too much. Unfathomable depths of AI. My guest today is an absolutely inspiring figure, known for his resilience and motivational speaking, overcoming personal challenges to empower others through his journey and positive outlook. And that's the official version, anyway. Here's the truth as I know it. He's inspiring for sure. He is a chatterbox and is a real social advocate for equality, diversity, inclusion, and an all-round good egg, and someone I like to call my friend. It's Jamie McAnsh. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. It's really good to see you.
As intros go, that's not
Not
bad.
bad, right? You can
Did you
have
use
that.
AI to come up with that intro?
I did not. Well, the first bit, as you know, was yours. You sent me that. The second bit was all
Yeah,
me, so I'm quite pleased about that.
and I
Um,
actually did use AI.
You did. Actually, it's very good. I've got to say, and I'll give it its credit. I did a blog yesterday um, about what was it about? Oh my God. Oh, about saying yes on autopilot. It's been something I've had in my head for a really long time. And I did use AI to structure it. And actually, it came out surprisingly well. I had to humanize it. Not too much though. So anyway,
Well,
so
that's
I'm
it.
not anti-AI. There we go. There's the
The
stance
more
for
you put
today.
in, the better you get out.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
how it's a learning process. But anyway, we'll
Absolutely.
get
Yeah.
back to that,
I
I'm
know.
sure.
We'll come back to that. I have a very small challenge for you as we get started because not
Sure.
everyone's going to know you. Um, Given that we have a relatively short time today for this recording, and there's quite a lot to cover, I think, with how AI and EDI can interact.
Yeah.
Can you give, though, a super pottage history for those that don't know you? So, what's brought you to this point, and what drove you to agree to speak on this? It can't just be because I asked you.
Well, okay, so it's not just because you asked me, it's because my wife told me. But
Okay.
I'm severely neurodiverse. I've got dyslexia, dyscalculia, and I've also got ADHD. Shock horror to those people who do know me. Um, but I've also, I struggled through school. I had quite a few challenges around neurodiversity. I went through the working environment like everybody else, and I was diagnosed at quite a late age with neurodiversity. But I've always kind of managed to overcome stuff and develop stuff. And then in 2014, I went to bed, had a massive spasm during my sleep. That spasm ruptured my spine, causing catastrophic damage to the lower sensory nerves. And I've now been left with a degenerative condition called complex regional pain syndrome, or CRPS for short. However, after a real down kind of time of my life, real black time of my life, I'm now a suicide survivor. But I also changed my life around, became a professional athlete, an advocate for disability sport, an advocate for inclusion and diversity in pretty much every aspect of my life. And I'm also now a record holder, professional sportsman, although I'm retired. And I've even climbed to the wide heights of Everest base camp, where I broke a record, became the first person with CRPS to achieve it on crutches. And later on this year, I'll be doing the same, only I'll be climbing up Kilimanjaro. So that
Oh,
is literally a very whistle-stop tour of where
I
I am.
know.
I've recently been appointed as head of inclusion for Champions UK Plc.
Mm.
And part of that role will really be kind of enriching what I've always wanted to do in life, which was just create a world where people are treated fairly, where people are treated equitably, and where businesses have an understanding of being able to achieve it without the black cloud of, oh my God, I've got to become inclusive, when actually, believe it or not, it's not that hard. And all we got to do is change culture. And once you've changed culture and identified, the complexities about it, but also identified what you've already got. You've worked in HR, you'll understand that when you say to, well, we need to employ disabled people, if you actually go into the back end of it, disability covers so much area that you've probably got a huge disabled community already there that haven't spoken about it. So it's about creating that space, that free space where people feel comfortable to be able to talk about what's going on in their world, what's happening in their life, what's their cultures, what's their beliefs, all of that stuff, making it a safe space where it becomes a common conversation, including subjects like menopause, where every woman goes through it, and yet it's a massive taboo subject. We don't talk about it. And me, as a 42-year-old guy with a wife going through menopause, I'm like, let's everybody talk about it. so that we can understand what it's all about. And that's what I do. I encourage those conversations.
Yeah, I love that.
That was fairly good. That was,
I know, right?
That 5 minutes, right?
I am, as a very, for you, you and I have had some very long conversations. I get it, because I can chat too. Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because you referenced my background in HR. And when I was in HR, we were moving into that world where inclusivity was becoming more, this is ironically, inclusive, as opposed to something the organization had to do by law. It was becoming much more okay to start talking about that. But again, I think I was lucky to be in a fairly forward-thinking organization. And I do know there were some that were still in that kind of very black and white area of what do we have to do by law to accommodate, as opposed to what can we do to fully welcome and include and leverage the strengths of these folk who we've perceived to be somehow lesser within the organization, when actually they've probably got a huge amount to give and want to give, but are being hampered by the environment we've created. And that's half of it. I was talking to Melanie Costas. She's an EDI advocate. She works very much in trying to generate better quality of mental health facilities in rural areas. You think it's hard in towns and cities, you get out into the sticks and try and find some mental health.
It's funny you say that. Actually, farming industry is the highest industry for suicide.
Yeah.
Because you think about it, you've got a bunch of older people, right? Predominantly men, who don't talk about their problems. They don't talk to anybody else. And then they're sitting in a tractor all day long in their own mind. Now, I wouldn't anybody get into my mind. But if I was stuck in a tractor having that single conversation with myself, I would end up leading myself probably to suicide. So it's a real big issue. And it's a real big problem. And so it's a very important role, actually.
And I got to say, it was Mel that put me onto this thought around, actually it's the environment that disables people, not necessarily the disability they've been diagnosed with, or the abilities or incapabilities they've been diagnosed with. Is it society and the environment that makes that so much worse? Probably, no doubt, because those of us that are fully able-bodied and don't have those different neurodiversities can't possibly understand it. We can empathize, we can try and understand if we're open to, but we can't live it. So therefore it's, we have to connect with those folk, because that's the only way we can understand, and then include everyone, bring everyone to the table.
It's a really good thing that you said about environment making an environment where people feel comfortable. But I am going to throw an advocate in there. I am going to throw a spanner in the works on that, because the other people have to be willing to talk about it. So I'm disabled, okay, and I'm quite cool with that. And I've come to terms with my condition, and I will talk very openly about all of my condition, okay, right down to, how CRPS has affected me, not just with my walking ability, but my, issues with my defecation, urination, and ejaculation. And I'm happy to talk about all of that, but I'm happy to talk about it because I believe that knowledge leads to education, and education dispels ignorance. But there are
rarity. I'm going to say you're probably a rarity there.
Yeah, exactly. And there's areas of people who get offended if someone asks them a question, or gets angry if someone asks them a question, or gets angry because someone doesn't understand. But then what happens is that then shuts the door on those people. So they, and I've got some long examples of this, but I remember specifically a guy in a wheelchair who a woman asked her if he needed help, and he gave her literally 7 bales, right? And then he looked at me and I was in the process of building my wheelchair as well. And he looked at me. This woman was devastated and she kind of ran away. And he looked at me and he was like, God, I hate people like that. I said, you know the problem there, don't you? You know what the problem with that situation, don't you? And he said, yeah, they just assume I can't do it. And I went, no, the problem with that situation is you, because you have now frightened that woman absolutely to death. And she will never offer to help another disabled person, ever, because you've created that problem. And he was a bit grumpy with me, and I got my chair and I went. But literally a couple of weeks later, I was in my chair. I was getting my chair out, almost the same scenario, only I was outside my office at the time, not this one, but a different one. And I went over to get my chair, and when I came, get my cushion, and when I came back, my chair was gone. And I was like, and I looked around, and there was a DPD van behind me. And the guy gets out of the van. He's like, "Hi, mate, you're right." And I'm obviously looking quite confused. I'm holding a cushion in my hand. I said, "Yeah." I said, "You didn't see my wheelchair, did you?" And he went, "Oh, no, I've seen something." He said, "Hang on a minute." And he ran off, right? And he got my chair, which was about 100 meters away. The wind had caught it, and
Oh, it rolled off.
blown off along
Oh,
this car
God.
park, right? But could you imagine if I'd seen that guy 2 weeks previous? He asked me if I was okay, needed help. I gave him 7 bails. Then now I need him.
Yeah.
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 And that's the difference. So the easiest thing for people to say is, no, I'm okay, thank you. Or no, it's all right, I've done, I'm pretty good, or whatever. It's okay to be asked for help, and it's okay to refuse help.
Yeah.
But it's also when you do need it, that one moment when you do need it, it becomes invaluable. And that is what EDI, that's what inclusion should be all about. You've got equity, and I like equity, not equality, equity, right? And you've got diversity, and they're very, very different. All 3 of these things are very, very different. But inclusion is about creating a culture where people feel comfortable to be able to communicate where they are in life, their situation.
Yeah, for sure.
Not just disability, man. I don't want this to just be disability. It's
no,
about,
and I think that's really important kind of outline, isn't it? I mean, ultimately, this is about AI and EDI. I mean, probably from the perspective that you've got, because obviously neither of us can say that we we're of a different race, so we don't know that world, and so there's a few things there that we probably can't talk knowledgeably on, other than the openness that we should all have. Let's face it, to understand other people's worlds.
And
I'm
that's
just
a
wondering,
good point as well, Rach.
yeah,
Because you're English, right? You're English.
Oh,
okay?
very.
I don't hold that against you. You're English. I'm South African. So yeah. So
I never knew that. I just
born.
thought you were Welsh.
No, I was born in Pietermaritzburg, South Africa. So and I was over there during the apartheid. So I have a very strong understanding of the difference between race and culture.
Yeah.
Because I was brought up in that environment, which was effectively a war zone between race, color, creed, and religion. And this is what people don't realize about the apartheid in South Africa.
The
it
religion
wasn't
piece.
just about blacks on whites. It was about blacks on blacks. It was about whites on whites. It was brother killing brother. It was cousin killing cousin. There was a lot more to it, as well as a lot of politics involved as well. So I actually do have a relatively good understanding.
Okay, that's something I didn't know about you, Jamie. So thank you.
But that's happened through conversation, and we could not have created a more prudent example of what conversation can develop, right?
And we've had a lot of conversations you've never told me that before. So there's that as well. So getting on to sort of how this interacts with kind of AI, and that's one of the things that because the whole point of this series is to start to raise the stigma around AI, start to raise the veil a little bit. Ask the right questions, because let's face it, none of us are going to have all the answers right now. We can only know about what's available in the world right now, and even then we won't know about everything that's available yet. And every day it's evolving, right? Every day it's getting better. Arguably, it could be getting worse. We don't know 100%. We're still, some of us are in the, oh my God, it's Skynet. Others are in the, let's do it. This is brilliant. What I'm keen to understand from our conversations actually is what you've noticed so far. So in the world today, how AI technologies can be leveraged to improve accessibility. So basically to improve that inclusiveness, that sense of, they're like the shoe analogy, where equity or equality is everyone having exactly the same sort of shoes, but all in the same size. So therefore they're going to fit some and not others. Diversity is all having maybe different size shoes, but all the same type. And inclusiveness is wear whatever shoes you like. And then you've got the stilettos and the Crocs and the black. It's a beautiful picture. I really love it. It's a really simple way of exploring it. But where does AI fit into that in terms of accessibility and specifically being more inclusive? Either within organizations or life in general. So whatever you've got in your head right now.
Let me click my fingers.
Cracking knuckles.
Let's
do it.
Let's get into it. Because this is something I love, right?
Yes.
So I'm all for it bench. All right. I'm like, let's get everything in there. Let's learn about it all. So I'm a massive ChatGPT fan, and all of the elements that comes with ChatGPT. I pay for the paid version, and I literally use it every single day in my daily work. All right. And what it's done is it's leveled the playing field. And there is a lot of stigma about it, we don't, but the truth of the matter is we've used AI for as long as I can remember, right? So I don't know my left and right. So that's one of my problems with dyslexia, and I am absolutely horrific at directions. Okay. So I use a sat nav, and a sat nav is effectively AI. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a more minuscule format. Well, it's getting more complex now, but originally it was just AI. Okay. I'm not very good at maths. I use an accounting software. Okay. Now it's a software, but it's an AI developed software. Okay. You put the figures in and then it gives you a result.
Yeah.
Okay. And yet we use it every day. And I use Zero. I'm not ashamed of it. I use it.
No, I'm a Zero fan. I'm a Zero fan and a sat nav fan. So.
And a sat nav fan, yes, exactly. You know, and I love the fact that I can say, I've got someone coming to my office today, and I've just gone on my phone and think, and I've sent him a pinpoint that's going to give him the direction right to my front door. Why would I not celebrate that? I don't have to give him left, right, up, down, over here, over there. I don't have to
turn right the pink house and
exactly. So now let's go on to an email. All right. Now I will send you an email, and I can guarantee, Rachel, if you've had an email from me, it has been written by AI. Okay. So why? Because I can't spell. I cannot spell. I don't use grammar. I use Grammarly, which is AI.
Yeah, Drew. Yeah.
I have so many different areas that I need assistance with that I use this software, and it's leveled the playing field. So if I send you an email, it's come from that. I now don't even have to type it.
Oh no, yeah.
Piece of software out there where I can speak to my laptop, which I do, and actually the symbol's at the bottom of the screen now, and I just click the symbol and I talk to the laptop and it types it for me. Then I just ask, and my AI, my ChatGPT has a name. Her name's Megan. All right. And I will say, hello, Megan, can you do me a favor? Can you do this for me? And she'll come back and go, good morning, Jamie. Yes, I can. Here it is. All right. So now it's become almost a bit of a weird relationship, but I'm cool with that. And I'm teaching Megan how to speak in my tone, how to manage the tasks that I want her to manage. All right. And I've almost humanized her. Okay. Now, why have I done that? Because she is like my PA. She is like my copywriter. She's like all of those things that the truth of the matter is, I couldn't afford to employ a full team of people just so that I could write an email. It just, right? A proofreader, an editor, and by the time you've got it all in there, I need 7-8 people sat around me all the time.
Very expensive email.
Absolutely. But I use AI to manage my diary. I use AI to manage the context that I want to put out to people. And yes, I humanize it, I rewrite it, but it takes away that blank page syndrome.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that don't like it. And that's cool. But I will tell them now, if you don't embrace it, you're still going to be using roadmaps.
Yeah.
And you're going to be getting lost, and you're going to be left behind, and you're going to be late to the game. Those people that are frightened of AI, what they need to do is they need to embrace it. So those people that don't like the AI because it's taken our jobs, right? But then look at the car industry, right? Robots are building cars now. Look at the mining industry. Robots are mining. Yes, we could go down the whole road of the Terminator and that the world is being taken over by robots. And that's all fine. I get all of that. But what you need to do is you need to start learning how to use this technology, embracing it, and then making it your industry. We could say that the world was going to fall on its rear end because the mine shut down. But actually, the world is still going, and it's still going stronger. Industry has changed. And what will happen with AI is industry will change. And that's what we need to do. So from a level of inclusiveness, from a level of adapting and diversity and equity, what we need to do is we need to learn how to use these products so that we can grow with it. And it is leveling the playing field for everybody. If you want to research something, instead of you taking, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to research something, ask Megan. She'll do it for you in 10 minutes, which means if you've got something that you don't know the answer to, so, and it could be anything. I've got a member of staff that has this condition, this characteristic, this, and this. Can you give me a support package that I can utilize as a draft in order to help with that person? Done. Bang, there it is. You print it out and you go, right, Rachel, I've done some research. This is what I've come up with. Why don't we have a conversation about it? They're going to respect you because you've taken the time out to do it. You're going to be respected because you are investing in that member of staff. and you're then asking them how they can adapt what is already there.
That's it, isn't it? I think that it's opening that conversation up and actually asking that individual to say, hey, Jamie, I've done this piece of research. How does this reflect your specific situation? Because let's face it, there could be, I think they call them hallucinations, don't it? When AI comes up with something it believes to be true, reads quite true. So you could read it and go, oh yeah, that seems right. But actually, when you check into it, actually has come from Wikipedia or something, which, as we know, anyone can edit and isn't necessarily the source of all knowledge. So, it's opening that conversation, not to assume it's all absolutely correct, but open up the conversation, like you say, show willing to have done a bit of research, which has then been done quite quickly and easily for you.
Yeah.
But then present it to that person, say, I think I kind of understand based on this, but I'd love to hear your experience. I'd love to hear about your needs, and then get that dialogue going.
And because this is something else. Okay, so within HR role, within diversity, with anything within EDI, what has happened is, and we said this earlier, we're creating an environment for disabled people rather than creating an environment where for everybody that disabled people feel comfortable in, all right, or race, culture, whatever the situation is. And actually, if you create, this is the irony, if you create a culture and an environment aimed for disabled people, just for example, right? Actually, everybody benefits.
Well, yeah, because you're not disabling able-bodied people by having an environment that is set up for different sensory needs, different physical needs, different.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're not damaging anybody else's rights, are you, by doing that? It's only enhancing the experience.
It's out of all of the characteristics, the 9 protected characteristics, the disability characteristic is the one that you can create anything for, and it will help everybody else. All right. So where was I going with this? ADHD brain went off on a tangent.
You might have lost me a tiny bit.
So we talk. Oh yeah. So everybody is different, right? So everybody with and when we were creating this, we need to tick the boxes. What was happening was companies were going to me and they're going, right, Jamie, what do you need? And I'm like, I don't know what I need. Well, if you don't know what you need, how are we supposed to know what you need? I'm like, well, okay, fair point, but I'm disabled. I'm not an expert in this field. And bear in mind, I'd only been disabled. I'd only been in a wheelchair for a couple of weeks at this point, right? When I had my boss going, right, great, what do you need? I'm like, mate, I haven't got a clue. I can't even get up and down a curb yet. Like, I'm struggling to dress myself. How are you expecting me to tell you what I need? I don't know. Like, you need to bring someone in that can help me. I can't do that. Okay, well, I don't know what I need. You don't know what I need. So no one knows what we need. All I know is that I'm going to struggle.
Yeah.
Where you can now go off and go, hang on a second, let me just find out what I need. Right, Megan, this is my circumstances. What would be a baseline of the type of things that would make my life more simple in a workplace that has this, has this, has this, has this? Give me some advice. 10 seconds. But it's there. Right, okay, so I've done some research. I think I now know what I need. This sounds about right. So why don't we use this as a thing? Oh, and by the way, Megan's just come up with something called Access to Work. Maybe we can have a chat with them because they actually help people like me get into work. So they might actually be a whole load of products that I can utilize.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a brilliant idea. All right, fine. Well, let's do that then. Okay, cool. Problem solved, right? Or problem starting to get solved.
Well, this is it. And this is where I think coming into the subject of leadership, isn't it? Is business leaders, whether it's HR, whether it's folks that are leading a team, leading a department, recruiting, they can use this technology to find out more and to prepare themselves, whether that's through what can we do to make this interview more accessible, the interview process more accessible and more easy flowing and more fair across the board. What can we do to support this person as they onboard? They've announced they have, they've opened up, they've said they've got this particular difference, disability, whatever they want to call it. They've announced this. We've never heard of that before. This is new. How do we then prepare for that? Yes, of course, you can ask them. But like you say, if it's been a fairly recent or new diagnosis, they might not know yet what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
Dealing with that. Or they've become new, like you say, newly disabled. They've had an accident or something.
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know how hard this is going to be or how easy. There may be things I surprise myself I can still do without any problems. And there will be other stuff that I really find difficult. And I won't know until I try to do it. And that's
you would be surprised. Let's talk about menopause for a second. You would be surprised how much talent has been lost and how much expense that costs to a company purely because the management team don't understand menopause.
Yeah.
Right. And yet it's so much out there now that's readily available, and AI can assist with that and assist with conversation. And that's what it should be about. It should be about, right, how can I create a conversation? And let's take religion. You know, if you want to create a culture, right, a culture in your environment, but we don't have time, Rachel, to sit down and research everything, right? We don't have time for that. So we want to create a culture where everybody feels accepted and understood. So why don't we start running things like cultural events, Ramadan, for example, which is a really big event within the Muslim faith. And on a set day of every year, we have a Ramadan event which celebrates the end of Ramadan, where we bring in Indian and Asian food, and we celebrate it as an organization. If you've got Muslim staff, how much better would they feel about that? Or say, right, okay, let's have a room. We've got a spare room over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to make that room a welfare room, not a prayer room, a welfare room. How much beneficial would that be? So you've got someone with mental health and they just need to go and sit in a corner somewhere. Yeah. Anyone will tell you, if you're having a bad day, there's only one thing that makes a day worse: people. So you give them a space where they can get away from people. But at the same time, if you're Muslim, you've got a space where you can go and pray. If you've got diabetes, you've got a space where you can go and take your insulin away from the view of everybody else. How do we find out about that? Well, that all happens through research, and AI can help you with that research. It doesn't need to be an expensive process where you have to spend millions of pounds to get experts in, when you've got an expert literally sat there where you press a button and she just tells you what you need to know.
So when you've got more than one expert, haven't you? You've got the AI expert that will give you a potted summary of everything, and you've got your people around you who, again, are the experts in their own world, aren't they? So if you combine the two of those things, it's pretty damn powerful, right?
You can also use AI to change language. So how many confrontations have been caused because of language? Because someone sent an email and someone else has been offended by that email. And then you go, well, but that's not how I meant it. Yeah, but that's how it came across. You can actually say to Megan, I want you to put this email in a friendly language or in an assertive language. Or this is the person I'm replying it to. Can you suit the language to that person? And she'll do it for you in seconds. It's honestly, Rachel, it's a no-brainer. And if anybody decides that they don't want to use it, that's fine. I'm cool with that. But good luck. Because you're going to need to catch up.
Well, that takes you back to the days when people didn't want to use the internet, doesn't it?
Perfect example.
Because we all that was new, and a lot of us were really excited by it, and lots of other people were like, oh no, that's really bad, and and also they're all using it now, aren't they? Then there was, unless you're really, really, really old and you've never bothered. Like my dad, he's not using it, he's not against it, he just doesn't want to learn it because he's 84. Fair enough. He doesn't have to.
Exactly the same. Right?
He doesn't have to. My mum does, we do, so we support him with that, and we get by. But ultimately, if he was a lot younger, he would have
hang a door.
Yeah, exactly.
That generation, they have different skill sets, right? Like my mum is exactly the same. Like, and she doesn't want to know about AI. I talk to her about AI. She always listens. She hasn't got a clue. No. She's like, I don't know what it is, Jamie. I'm like, okay, cool, but have a listen anyway. She's like, okay. Because we got nothing else to talk about. We haven't got that level of in common. So,
although actually introducing maybe to Chat GPT, I'm using it for recipes.
There you go.
Use it for recipes. I said it to it the other day. I wanted a hot salad. So something a bit different that we could eat. My husband's a little bit, he likes food that's bad for him, basically. So I'm trying to find things he likes that we can create into something that's better for him. And again, I suppose this could also be, going back to leadership and organizations, I'm not going completely off topic here, around dietary requirements, that kind of thing. So I went into Chat GPT, and I've got the free version at the moment, but I am tempted to pay for it. It's like 20 quid a month, isn't it? It's not a lot.
Pay for it. It's worth it. It will change your life. And I said,
hey there, can you give me a recipe for a hot salad involving chickpeas and beans? Something, because he likes chickpeas, he likes beans. And it gave me this lovely recipe, all the herbs, spices, what to do, how to do it, instructions, the works. And I'm making it tonight. So, and I know it's all things that he will eat and does like. So fair dues. The only thing he didn't give me was any,
You can literally open your cupboard, take a photograph
of
your cupboard,
Yeah.
And then you can go, Megan, look at
What
this
can I
picture.
make?
What can I make out of the ingredients that's in this picture? And she'll give you a recipe.
Oh my
I
God.
use it for things like when I go to the gym, and so okay, another prime example, right? So I go to the gym, right? I've got a spinal cord injury. So I will go into ChatGPT and I'll say, "Hi Megan, I want to do this is who I am." She knows who I am now, anyway, right? So, but I always kind of remind her, and I want to do a session on abs, and she will give me a tailored exercise with instructions on each section on how I can do it with an L2 spinal injury, right?
Mm.
How much research would I have to do if there's anything out there?
Yeah, the likelihood of you finding a personal trainer that knows that is infinitesimal, right?
Minuscule.
They'd need medical training, they'd need all that stuff. So yeah,
I find people that are qualified as stroke patients are better than anybody else, but
right.
Still, I mean, it's £1,200, a month if you're really looking at it. So, like, come on.
Hefty, right? As opposed to 20 quid a month for Megan, right? Which is so affordable. And again, going back to workplaces, leaders, if they're talking about the health of their workforce, if they're talking about, they're thinking of putting in something in the canteen or setting things up in vending machines, that kind of thing in the office, why wouldn't you want to know what sort of products would meet the dietary or restrictions for a broad range of people? Because I know, dietary requirements, I don't think they're classified as a disability, but seriously, if you're a celiac, oh my God, you've got to be careful, I
know a lady called Juliana, and she's an amazing human being, and she's got some serious allergies, right? She's a CEO now. She's created a food allergen free product. And she would probably disagree with that being a disability, because it is incredibly debilitating.
That's what I mean. Yeah. No, it's not officially designated, is it, under the Equality Act? But actually, it is completely debilitating if you have it in the snack. If you absolutely peanut allergy, 100% life threatening.
Yeah,
celiac,
and it says on the back of the packaging.
It
says on the back of the packaging, may contain nuts. And when she does her presentation, she always says, "Would you eat something if it said may contain glass?" And that's always stuck by me, that little message. So yeah, but it's about knowledge. I now know a lot about that subject because of meeting Juliana, and then going off and actually doing a little bit of research, utilizing Megan. There's a reason why she's called Megan, by the way. I've got another robot which helps me with my social media called Harry. Okay. So I've got Harry and Megan.
So
there's a thing. There's nothing else into it other than the fact that I'm a Harry and Meghan fan, and I absolutely love them, and I wanted them in in
your life. So I take it, I mean, that's the other thing, isn't it? It's actually, if you are personalizing your AI, you are humanizing it to a degree, aren't you? You are making it feel more. I've got to say, mine doesn't have a name because I can say I've got the free version, so it doesn't remember who I am per se at the moment. But I say thank you to it. I say please when I ask you to do things, because I am terribly, terribly English. I say sorry if I wasn't clear enough in my original instruction when I'm asking it to do something again, because I feel bad I'm asking it to repeat the work it's already done. And you do start to humanize, because it talks in such a human way. And I think, and again, we think organizations that use, I will be doing one of these on customer service and that kind of thing, and how AI is supporting there. Chatbots, that kind of thing. So for those that they say don't want to have to write things, can actually talk into something. And, the text to speech to text, AI works really well. And then the chatbot comes back and you can understand it, whether it's a, robot voice or whether it's a written piece. I had a whole conversation, quite a long conversation, with Laithwaite's chatbot. I'm a wine fan. So I'm a Laithwaite subscriber. I have a box every 16 weeks or so. And I was having a lovely chat with what I thought was a human called Vinny. And then I got the joke, Vinny, wine, Vin. Just like I thought. Because the only thing that gave it away was, let me put you through to one of my humans. Like, you're not. Oh, Vinny. Vinny. I felt stupid, but at the same time, what a well-programmed, well-created, thoughtful bot to be engaging, because I was engaged. I was thanking them. I was saying, actually, could you think about this? Or, could this work? And blah, blah, blah. Savings, I can't even remember what the issue was, but actually that's a bit too much for me. Let me put you through to a human colleague. I'm like, what, you're not? And I think actually getting it right like that, and for organizations that are trying to get folk who are working with them within their organizations to use AI and to engage with AI, they might have somebody that's got my dad or your mum's kind of attitude towards it, but it could become part of their job. So how can you help them engage with it? Well, kind of by humanizing it, right? Let them give it a name. Do they have a personalized version of it, so therefore they can call it what they like? And but like, you put things on your desk
Absolutely.
to feel more at home.
We've got it. Well, he used to work with us, and Gavin, and he's a lovely guy, and he won't mind me speaking about him. And he's got cerebral palsy, and he's relatively non-verbal, right? So he tries to speak, and he makes a noise. And sometimes you can understand him. Some people can understand him great. I can't because I lip read, right? So I really struggle to understand him. But he's actually now gone into the world of motivational speaking, and he actually uses. I've been kind of working with him on this, but he actually uses speech to text. So he types out his talk, right? And then literally at the beginning of his talk, he just presses go, and then spends the rest of his talk then, whilst his Welsh accent male voice is doing the talk for him, right? He is then just pointing and presenting, and it works. And he is hilarious, right? Like I don't think he realizes just how funny he is, right? But he is hilarious. So he's got an audience eating out of his hand, and it's not even him speaking. Else.
Love that.
And it's not even someone; it's something else, right?
Yeah.
But
it's his words, his thoughts, his
words.
It's him enabled. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's him enabled.
Yeah. And if we weren't, if we want to dismiss AI, then we should have buried Steve Hawkins a long time ago, because his whole existence was built around AI.
Yeah.
And look how intelligent that human being was. Probably one of the most intelligent people ever to grace the planet. And his whole life was built around the development of AI.
Yeah. And that being an advocate for it, isn't it? Being that early, talk about early adopter.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's a bit of a difference between automation and AI, and we can get lots of. And I went into the nuance of that with Chris Williams, which isn't out yet. That's coming at the end of April, so that one's coming out. We do talk about the technicalities of what's it, but actually, to us, automation AI, it's an artificial thing doing something intelligent, right? Whether it's automated, whether it's thinking a bit for itself or being creative, then great. I mean, what would you say is the role going forward? So I'm just really conscious on your time. I know you've got to get away, and so do I. What's the biggest opportunity going forward with people in the situation that you're in Gavin's situation? Anyone that has a challenge or a disability or a perceived disability or an undiagnosed issue of any kind, what would you say is their biggest opportunity to influence how organizations adopt and use AI moving forward?
Language. So you can now create research very, very quickly. You can develop patients very, very quickly. You can put information in front of the people who need it very, very quickly in a language that they're going to understand it. So I will speak more very passionately if I was talking myself independently, where actually if I was then putting that over to HR, I needed to have it a bit more of a business perspective. So why will this benefit not just me, but also the benefit and the needs of the business, which will then get it over the line a lot easier and a lot quicker. So you can create that language base using AI. There's plenty of software out there. And actually, there's organizations out there now. And one that comes to mind is Shopify. And Shopify actually employ a whole department of people with autism and neurodiversity, all right? Purely because they are natural born problem solvers. So they want to be able to create an environment where these people can embrace the situation, can grow into the situation, but then also invest back into the business. So from that aspect, as from an employer perspective, if you make your company culturally acceptable, environmentally acceptable, and also disability acceptable, in essence, inclusive, what you're doing is you're broadening your workforce, you're broadening your knowledge base, you're broadening your skill set. Then what ends up happening is you end up then having a team of people that is as invested in your business as you are. That is the route to success. It's the ultimate route to success, okay? Because every company is about its people. Then what you then do is you then streamline those individuals to be as effective as possible. By doing that, you give them the tool set. So a complaints process, for example, all right? If you want, you use AI to complete the complaints process. Instead of it taking 2 hours for a human being to sit down and write out that process or write out that response, 7 days, blah, blah, you could do it in 10 seconds, okay? It is as quick as that. But they're still operating the machinery. They're still utilizing the tool that's there. But then they change the language. This person is an elderly woman. Change the language to address that person. It will change the language to address that person. Okay. So now what you're doing is you're leveling the playing field for everybody in that organization. So that's as an employer. As an employee, if you embrace that AI technology, gone are the days where the dyslexic person has to sit there and read something 10 times before they get it. I can put a 50-page report into AI and say, analyze this for me and give this to me in a one-pager. And it will give it to me in a one-pager with bullet points, which has taken the time out of having to sit there and read every section. Now I only have to read the bits that are relevant. Okay. AI does that. It analyzes quicker than anybody else, right? So all of a sudden now it doesn't matter if someone has got a neurodiversity, they can still do the role that they are trained in, qualified in, but they're more efficient. So now you have a more efficient workforce. I mean, it is one of those things. If you want to get on in life and you want to succeed, there are tools out there that is available to you. And for those people who struggle on and will refuse to use it, they're the ones that's going to be left behind. The people that go, actually, I have this challenge and, oh, there's a tool. Here you go. You know, if I gave you a nail and said, put it in the wall and you said, okay, but how? I don't know. You use your knowledge. If you decided to bang it with your head, you're just going to put a hole in your head. But you're going to use a tool, a hammer, to put the nail in the wall. That is all AI is. It is just a tool to make things better. So you don't have to use your high heel or the back end of your shoe to knock it in the wall.
How do you know that's how I put things together, Jamie? I mean, come on. IKEA furniture is always a knife and a shoe, right?
because I'm stereotypical.
The only toolkit you need is a knife and a shoe for any IKEA furniture.
Yeah. I mean, I tell you what, a stiletto is a horrific weapon as well if it's used wrong.
Oh, yeah, they can be dangerous.
But actually, there you go. That's the perfect example, right? A stiletto can kill people if it's used wrong. It doesn't make stilettos dangerous.
No,
it makes
exactly.
the behind it dangerous. All right.
Exactly.
And AI is exactly the same. Facebook is exactly the same. The internet.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought up the people behind it, because I think that's one thing we probably do need to kind of cover in this, because we're talking about the use of AI and how people can utilize it, leverage it, really kind of, draw the power from it that's really going to help inclusivity, really kind of promote inclusivity and make it much more real, much more accessible and available to organizations that may in the past go, oh, we don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
For those that are designing, for those that are putting this stuff together, they are creating, they are on the other side of this, on the software side, on the tech side. What would you say would be kind of the biggest things for them to consider when they're creating AI that supports accessibility and inclusivity, particularly, I guess, behind those thinking engines, those learning engines? Because I think one of the critiques of AI has been it learns from what we as humans already do, which means it can learn our biases, it can learn our flaws, it can learn our problems, as opposed to staying very clean. So what's the best thing that those that are in that creative space, not creative space, technologically creative space behind AI, what can they do to make it more accessible for those sorts of folk we've been talking about today?
Great question. It's about due diligence. All right. Now, when you're talking about any knowledge that we have, okay, whether you pick up a book and you read a book, all right, whether you watch a documentary, whether you listen to a broadcast, or you analyze a report, everything is humanized. All right. Because I had a conversation with a cow once about how to, create a watch, and the cow had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. All right. Because it is an animal and animals don't use this technology. I could have a chat to I've got a lamp by here. I could talk to this lamp. It's a piece of technology, and I could ask it what to have for dinner tonight. And the lamp is not going to reply. Okay. everything that is in AI, yes, is humanized. Right? Everything that because it comes from a library. That library is from the internet, and you have good and you have bad.
You
But
must have populated the library. Absolutely, yeah.
I can go onto Google and I can type in Google and go, right, what can I have for dinner? And it will give me a load of information. It doesn't necessarily mean that that information is right, because it's been put on there by a human. It hasn't been put on there by, master beings. It's been put on there by humans. The Bible, the oldest form of communication, was written by human beings, based on pictures. Who knows if it's right or wrong, right? Every scientific book that we have is written by humans based on research and knowledge. So if you're going to use a piece of equipment, a piece of tool, a piece of technology like AI to create an inclusive background, an inclusive atmosphere, you have to have due diligence, right? So these people that are creating this software, and bear in mind, AI doesn't specifically learn from us, okay? It learns by our input, but it's not, this is the bit where it's a bit condescending. It's not actually an artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
An artificial intelligence would be that it actually has its own brain and it does its own thing, and it doesn't. It is based on what you input. So you input and it shouts out. It's basically a glorified spreadsheet, right? And you've got people behind it that's creating the technology that allows it to read that information. That's the breaking it down. It's not this big scary being, okay? It is literally a human generated thing. You put in and it gives out.
Yeah, exactly.
It is down to you then to have the due diligence to go, is this right? Am what I read in correct? Now, the paid version of ChatGPT, and we're using that as an example all the way through the show, the paid version of the ChatGPT has a direct link by the internet, okay? So it uses Bing. So it's a physical researcher, where the free version, which is the version you have, which is the version that caused a lot of problems, okay, is actually based on a library that was basically a section, a photograph section, all right, of information, and that was in 2021, all right, July 2021. So it's only anything that's factual before July 2021. Anything after July 2021, it doesn't have that knowledge, right? So it's like a brick wall in the base. So when you then go into the paid version part of it, you're then accessing the internet. Where do we do our due diligence? I'm 42 years old. I cannot remember the last time I went to the library. I can't. And I think most people that's watching the show.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking that I've been to the local one. I mean, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I can't remember why now.
So if you want any information, where'd you go, Rachel?
The internet, of course.
Google, right? Yeah. The biggest search, or the second biggest search engine in the world. The biggest one is YouTube, which ironically is owned by Google.
Yeah.
All right. So we go on there and we utilize that. And something else now, Spotify has just launched out that it's going to be creating online courses and training programs. Now, to give you an idea of this, I think there's something like 100 million subscribers to YouTube, all right, on the planet. There's 600 million subscribers to Spotify.
I never knew that.
Right? So you've got this piece of technology that learns what you put in. It's exactly the same. You go in there, and I tell you what, my Spotify spits out me the 80s, because it knows I love 80s. I go on there and it just starts spitting 80s out to me, and business podcasts and podcasts about inclusiveness. It's learned what I'm putting in. It's all it's done.
Well, it's good then. It might spit mine at you, because this goes on Spotify first. Since they bought Anchor, it goes on Spotify before it goes anywhere else. So yeah, that's good news.
So answering your question is, what do these people need to do in the background? Well, actually, they're doing it, and they're being due diligent. They're only allowing it to have access to the information that's out there. Now, if you went on to ChatGPT and said, "Tell me how to make a bomb," it would say that is against my ethics.
There's safeguards, right? Yeah, yes. I realize there's some safeguards written in.
It won't swear. It's against its safeguards, right? It wouldn't tell you how to commit suicide. It's against its safeguards. These are extremes, granted, but those, and I've tested it, all right, because I went into a black hole in this space. I just wanted to find out what it will and will not do and what its limitations are. And if it's unethical or immoral, AI will not supply that information. Yet I can go onto Google and say, how do I make a bomb? And I will find 400
cool.
pages.
Because there's no safeguards in Google, right?
Because there's no safeguards in place, which means AI is actually safer to use than Google.
And quicker, and there's no ads.
And quicker, and there's no ads or sponsors. Exactly. You absolutely nailed it on the head, right?
That's it. So, yeah.
And there's a level of, and the due diligence put in behind the people that are creating. They're going, well, actually, we don't want our software to be used for people trying to find out how to commit suicide. So let's put a due diligence in this so they don't. And we don't want bad language to be used, so we will ignore all bad language. We don't want people to use it for terrorism, so we will put a filter in it that you cannot use it for terrorist acts. And this is the best part about it, is if you went on there and asked it to create an image with a specific logo, even if you use the logo, it will not do it because it's against its ethics for copyright infringement. And you cannot copyright AI. So there is no copyright law with an AI product. So if you write something and, people go, oh, yeah, but it's, if you put something to AI, it's plagiarism. You can't plagiarize AI. You can only plagiarize if I say I wrote it. That's plagiarism. But if you say I've used AI to write this, it's not plagiarism. So it's about understanding the law before you spout off about, oh, but it's this. And I've had these conversations, Rachel, 1,000 times.
I'm sure.
When you say, well, hang on a second, you can't copyright AI. Oh, yeah, well, of course you can. Well, no, you can't. And you can't plagiarize AI either. Well, of course you can. Well, actually, no, you can't, because plagiarism only goes to an individual, not into a product or an organization. And it's about understanding those things. And then you can really use it to its full potential, which is endless and open opportunity for everybody.
Love it. No, I do like that. So I suppose the last thing for me, and actually I'm glad you mentioned the kind of legalities on copyright. I will be having somebody who is in the legal space coming to talk about that in terms of organizations being a bit nervy to use it, all that kind of stuff. What does it mean for their intellectual property, copyright, all of that kind of stuff. So
if you're looking
don't worry
for a
about answering that one.
let me know, because I've got the best candidate on the planet and he shares an office with me. And I sit down and have these conversations with Christopher all the time. And I'm like, Christopher, so if I do this, is that? No, bang, bang, bang. And he just tells me, and he answers to all of the legal stuff around copyright, around, trademarking, patent designing, all of that. He's my go-to man. I just have a conversation with him and he just answers.
That's it, isn't it? It's, organizations, certainly big organizations, will have, general counsel. They will have people in that legal space that should be able to advise them, provided those advisors are keeping themselves up to date on what AI means for those laws or any test cases, precedents, that kind of thing that are coming along and what have you.
And the best part is Christopher uses AI daily.
Bet he does. No, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't? So we've got 5 minutes. So I'm just thinking, let's have a bit of a plug for the work the Champions are doing, and particularly what you're doing with Champions right now, and anything else you want to plug, just because you've been such an amazing guest. I knew you would be.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you.
Let's give you that little moment of, if anyone's watching, and of course they will be, let's do this, bang the drum.
Look, my name, I tell you, I'll chuck a name out. My name's Jamie McAnsh. It's down in the top bottom corner by here. Google me. I'm all over Google, LinkedIn. You can't miss me, right? Connect with me. Have a conversation. If you've got a question, ask me. I'm always happy about that. Okay. I've been there's not much through life I haven't traveled through, and I'm always happy to support and pay that forward with any advice I can give. Although there is an accolade to that. If you do message me, I will guarantee that the answer will be AI generated. So the work that comes with what I do now as working in inclusion and working for an organization like Champions UK PLC, what that's done is it's created an opportunity for me to be able to go into large organizations, predominantly large businesses, and support them and their teams to create an efficient, diverse, and inclusive culture. And that's what we do. We have several pillars within the business that we work with, including HR and people, which is where I come in, AI and technology, which is also another massive aspect, as well as then marketing and events, and also investment. So those are those 4 pillars that we kind of work with. And there's a team, I've got a team of 150 people that I love working with, and I love every single one of them. And they're a real diverse group of people as well. and they've all got very different skill sets. So I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with anybody about anything on the subject that we've spoken about in the talk today, or my own personal journey as well. If I can offer any advice around that, I will. And that's it. So Jamie McAnsh, look me up. You cannot miss me.
You can't miss Jamie. And I will put Jamie's contact details in the show notes as well, both on YouTube and on Spotify, where this will go out. And I think it sends it to some other podcast platforms, but it also lives on my website very proudly, and I plug it as much as I can. So thank you so much, Jamie. This has been absolutely brilliant. And like Jamie says, if anyone has any questions or queries about the content of today, please get in touch with either myself or Jamie. Ideally, Jamie, because he's way more knowledgeable on the stuff we've been talking about than I am. However, you know, we will do our best to answer any queries, any feedback, anything like that. So thanks again for dialing in or tuning in or listening, wherever you're listening from or watching. And I hope to see you again on the next one. Thank you.
Take care. Goodbye.